Well, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folani alongside Asukwa James this morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Nigeria.
Indeed. Well, the big news, of course, the election in Edo is, all and done with. Governor Obaseki has been re-elected for a second term. But you know how it is. Let's just take a report first, so it'll give us an overview, and then we'll come back in studio.
Several hours of vigil finally ends. Collation commences at the INEC office in Benin. 18 local government collation officers take turns to tell INEC's returning officer, agents of political parties, civil society, security officers, and the media how the votes add up. Slowly but surely, the process began to wind down, but not without some objections, observations, and reservations from agents of political parties. Eventually, it was the most anticipated time. The returning officer declared the outcome of the total votes cast.
Osiage Eze Iyamu of APC have 223,619 votes. 223,619 votes. Osage El Idehen of APGA had 177. 177. Godwin Obaseki of the PDP had 307,955. 307,955.
Godwin Obaseki of the People's Democratic Party was duly returned elected.
Godwin Obaseki of PDP, having satisfied the requirement of the law in meeting the 25% in 2/3 of the local government area in the state, and having a margin of lead higher than the council vote, is hereby declared the winner and returned elected. Signed by my person. Today, 20 September 2020. Thank you, gentlemen of the board. Your rights.
A keenly contested governorship election that threatened to rip apart a state with more than 2 million registered voters has now been laid to rest. A beginning of a new political dispensation with Godwin Obaseki in charge for a second term of 4 years is now at the horizon.
Well, there you go. So that pretty much sums it up. And we have today INEC National Commissioner, Media and Voter Education on the line. And maybe we should just swing over to him. Good morning, Mr. Festus Okoye.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah, Yori Falani and Sukwa James in studio here. A major job just been successfully concluded by all accounts.
Well, we have followed through with our processes and our procedures, and we are happy that the Nigerian people are happy with our performance in relation to the Edo Governorship election.
Mm-hmm. Okay. By all accounts, it was a peaceful, relatively peaceful affair. But at the end of it all, there were congratulations. The statesmanlike thing was done. There were congratulations. But there were also some observations. And so, for instance, the political APC, for instance, is saying that it is studying the results. And when it is done with that, it will know how to present some observations that it has. After, of course, congratulating Governor Obaseki having won the election.
Well, it is the right of every political party and the right of every candidate that contested the election to study what has happened, and also strategize and re-strategize going forward. At the level of the electoral management body, we are also looking at all our processes and our procedures to see the ones we got right, so that we can further strengthen them, to see where we faltered, so that we can make amends. We believe that we did well with this election, but we are not yet where we want to be in terms of our processes and our procedures. But you know, as you can see, as an electoral management body, we have deepened the use of technology in the electoral process, and we have also planned strategically and deployed tactically to make sure that at least the people of Edo State and Nigerians in general are not kept waiting for too long for the opening of poll. So I want to really seize this opportunity to congratulate our young men and women who were out there in the front line, serving as presiding officers and assistant presiding officers. I think that they have done the nation proud, and they deserve every congratulation.
Indeed, that is the general sentiment that is going around. But is it RM1 local government, wards 1 and 2, those results were cancelled because, according to INEC, of irregularities. Could you shed any light on that?
Well, we are yet to do an audit in relation to the reason for the cancellation of some of the results of the election. And I believe that when we do an audit and then look at all our processes and our procedures, we will be in a position to give the nation a breakdown of what happened and what did not happen in relation to this election. But there were a few places where we had infractions, there were a few places where we had disruption of polls, and there were just a few places where some of our ad hoc staff were injured in the process of performing their constitutionally and statutorily assigned duties. But we are going to look at these things holistically, harvest the positives, and also look at the negatives and find ways and means of making sure that we deal with the negatives.
Okay, in terms of voter apathy, I'm looking at the voter apathy, I'm looking at numbers now. The number of PVCs collected is about 1.7, and the total votes that were cast and even accredited is about 500. Even total votes cast is about 550,242. Now, if in your own estimation, will you say this was a fair process in terms of the number of people that came out? Because if you look at it, it's like 1.3% or compared to last year. It's like people still didn't want to come out to vote. And does it worry INEC in any way?
I think that the number of people that came out to exercise their democratic franchise is a fair reflection of the changes of the moment. Now, you noticed that during the build-up to this particular election, there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of tension, there was anxiety, especially on the part of the voters, relating to the heightened level of violence, heightened rhetoric amongst the political parties and the candidates. That, for me, had a role to play in voter turnout. And also, you know that this election was also conducted under the shadow of a pandemic. There are also some people who, out of fear, decided to keep away rather than going to go to the polling units to go and get sick. We had given the people an assurance. We had made all the necessary provisions to make sure that people vote and vote in safety. And you also recognize that between the last election and now, some people have moved to different places, and some people have also, within the state, have moved to different locations. So I believe that when the commission rolls out a new policy and new guidelines on voter revalidation and transfer, and so many other people collect their permanent voters cards, that we may notice an improvement in voter turnout. But I think that with the outcome of this election, there's a high possibility that more people will re-engage with the electoral process, because that trust deficit that exists in our electoral process is breaking down. And I believe that if we improve more on our processes and our procedures, Nigerian people will have trust in this process and will re-engage with the electoral process.
Yeah, and this election, talking about the pandemic, this election is within this the pandemic, we noticed that social distancing was not in any way, adhered to. And with what you guys planned, that people will have to, space themselves and social distance themselves, it didn't happen. So are we looking at INEC, going out all out to make sure that come October the 10th, this will be adhered to by the voters?
We during the campaigns by the political parties and also during our stakeholder engagements and other interactions in Edo State, we noticed that there was going to be a challenge with the issue of social distancing and with the issue of people wearing their face masks. And we had raised the alarm that what we are seeing was not good enough. And we did a lot of campaigns, a lot of sensitization. We spoke to the various stakeholders, civil society groups and organizations, went to the different communities, trying to persuade them and encourage them to wear their face masks or face covering and also observe social distancing when they come to the polling units. But in some of the polling units we monitored, so many of the people refused to observe the issue of social distancing, and even those who came to the polling units with their face mask or face covering only put it on when they go to go and cast their ballots, and the moment they step out, they remove the face mask or face covering. And so I think that there's a general problem with that, and we are going to do more work in terms of sensitization and voter awareness to make sure that our people do not unnecessarily expose themselves to challenges on account of this particular pandemic. But I think that it is a collective responsibility, and people must also take responsibility for their health. But we will continue to do our best in encouraging our people to do the needful.
Okay, in terms of the people living with disability, what did you also do for them? What did you do for them? Because I know that we didn't really see much of those who were physically challenged, casting their ballots in Edo.
We have worked in a very consultative and inclusive manner with persons living with disability. Recall that even for this particular election, we printed what we call the Bread Ballot Guide, and we also provided some other gadgets that will assist persons living with disability to vote. We printed banners and so on and so forth in order to encourage them. But one challenge we still have, and we are working with them to overcome some of these challenges, relates to knowing exactly where the persons living with disability are in terms of the polling units and the type of disability that persons registered in particular polling units have, so that we can deploy the gadget or the equipment or the facility that will enable them to vote. But we are working with them and we are gathering data in relation to this. But in some of the polling units we monitored, the voters were very, very friendly. The voters were very compassionate in terms of allowing elderly persons to vote first, and also in terms of allowing persons living with a disability to cast their ballots before others. And so we are not yet there, but we will continue to improve in our relationship and interaction with them so that we can have a very comprehensive data of where they are, and then we can deploy the type of equipment and gadgets and facilities we have for them to these polling units.
Okay, whereas a winner has been declared, and as I said at the beginning, he has been congratulated by the other main contestant, that is the candidate of the APC. But I wanted to ask you how you felt technology held up in this election, because if memory serves me, was it the APC chairman, I think, complaining that the voters, the card readers weren't working where he was at. And then, as I said, there are also, whereas the contestants themselves have done the statesman-like thing, but their parties, and since you said that INEC is looking to cross its T's and dot its I's, the parties have made allegations. Is there a process, a time frame for the submission of these allegations, some of which you might have read already in the paper, in reporting on their allegations, that they felt votes were held down for some, and were, jacked up was the phraseology for others. How will all of this be processed, since I imagine INEC wants to clear the air on all of these?
One of the commitment this particular commission made to the Nigerian people was that we are going to deepen the use of technology in the electoral process and reduce as much as possible the human interface in the electoral process. And we came through with that in relation to the nomination processes of political parties. All the political parties that contested this election in Edo State filed the lists and particulars of their candidates electronically through our dedicated portal. And so there was no human interface in relation to this. All the domestic election observers apply for accreditation electronically. The media also apply for accreditation electronically. And so in relation to that, we have deepened the use of technology in the electoral process. We also established what we call the INEC Result Viewing Portal, where we deploy the ZPAD in order to capture the results as declared at the level of the polling unit, and then they were uploaded into this particular portal. Or as at 4 p.m. on election day, over 40,000 Nigerians had already logged into this particular portal, and we are viewing these results as they were coming in. And so, in terms of the use of technology, I think that we have done we did our best, but we continue to improve. Yes, we deployed the smart card reader for purposes of verification and authentication. And in 90% of all the places we monitored, the smart card readers performed well. In a few places where the smart card readers had challenges, we deployed our registration area technical assistants to go and rectify them. Those that they couldn't rectify, we replaced, because this is just a one-off election. It's a standalone election. So we had enough smart card readers and enough redundancies to intervene in all the registration areas. So in relation to that, I think that we didn't have more challenges, but we are still going to look into complaints. But let me say this: this particular commission is open and transparent. In places where we receive complaints of infractions or disruption of polls, we intervene. For this particular Edo election, we deployed 5 support resident electoral commissioners to go and support the resident electoral commissioner for Edo State. So we had 6 resident electoral commissioners, and they took 3 local governments each for purposes of supervision. And we also deployed 3 national commissioners to also as a backup to what we had in Edo State. And so we were very, very prepared for this particular election. We have done our best, but if people have complaints in relation to this particular election, the Constitution and the Electoral Act has given them an added opportunity, has given them the leeway to take their complaints before the appropriate authorities, and whatever the appropriate authorities or the appropriate organ of government decides. This particular commission we definitely abide by it. We are a democratic organization, we are a public trust, and we respect the wish and will of the Nigerian people.
Have you, I imagine you would have started some sort of investigation into your staff that are in the hospital really receiving treatment now. You said, I think it's been reported that one person actually had a wound to their face, and the other. What are the circumstances, if it is not premature, under which this incident occurred that led to this injury of INEC staff?
Well, one of them who he's been brought back to Abuja. He's receiving treatment in the hospital. He was a registration area collation officer and was going to go and report to his collation center when he was attacked and he was shot and macheted and was seriously injured. But he has been stabilized, and then he was brought back to Abuja yesterday, and he's presently receiving treatment. Then there's another one that also had a similar challenge. As at now, I don't have information relating to what has happened to that particular one or where he is. But I'm happy to report that both of them, from the information we got yesterday, are slightly in a stable condition. But whether they're in a stable condition or they're not in a stable condition, nothing warrants any individual or group or a party or candidate attacking young men and women trying to serve their nation. It doesn't. They don't deserve it. Because these young men and women are working in very difficult circumstances, and it is not a defying at all that anybody should go and attack them while they are trying to serve their nation.
Was there, I mean, there were reports of at least one, I can remember, one isolated occasion that was reported of a ballot box snatching attempt. I don't know, was the attempt successful, and what can INEC do about it?
Well, the way the polling units are calibrated, at the level of the polling units, we have unarmed security personnel, and then at the outskirts of the polling units and also doing patrols are armed police officers. So what we have done in relation to the Edo election was to create some level of synergy between the unarmed security officers at the polling unit and those who are patrolling and those who are at the outskirts, so that the moment there's a problem, they can intervene quickly. In all the places where we had challenges with persons attempting to snatch ballot box or snatch ballot paper or destroy ballot papers or even attack our officers, the security agencies responded quickly and brought the situation to under control. But in all the places where we had disruption, we made sure that nobody returned any results from those areas.
Okay.
You can see from the announcement of the results yesterday that all the places where we had disruption, the results from those areas were cancelled. All the places where any individual or group attempted to bypass the use of the card readers, we returned 0 votes for those polling units. And so we are in complete control of this situation, and we continue to improve as we move on in the ladder of the electoral process.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Mr. Festus Okoye, INEC National Commissioner, Media and Voter Education, for sparing some time to sort of do an overview of the election. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I wish you well too.
All right then. Well, so there we have it. As I was saying, by and large, a peaceful election. By and large, I mean, it's not as if there won't be any incident. And those ones, as the commissioner was saying, the national commissioner was saying, INEC seems to be on top of this. This whole situation. I was also mentioning the fact that APC as a party has complained, shall we say, disputing the result. Yeah, I guess that's the way to put it, disputing it. It's not the same as rejecting, is it?
Yes, yes, because and APC in Edo, they are the ones that are saying that they were the
APC
ones,
in Edo.
Yes, they were on the ground and they knew what happened, and that is why they are alleging foul play.
Yes.
Yes, even though INEC, just like Mr. Festus Okoye said, they did their own part of the duty to ensure that the process went on well, but the APC is still saying, well, they are going to, they are not really entirely happy that it was fair to them, Even but if they have evidence to show,
of course,
I know that they want to head to court, but they've not decided.
Well, they said they're still considering
their options.
The same thing that Pastor Izeyamo also said. After, first of all, congratulating Governor Obaseki, he then said he had some issues and that he was studying it, and really it would be his study, the results of his study would sort of point him in the next step to take, exactly. If any, by the way.
Exactly.
If any. I suppose one can't have an election and there won't be one issue or the other. But I think it's one of the more comforting things is that, be that as it may, the election has been said to be widely, violence-free, subject to the things that we mentioned just now. And I guess most people will be saying that this was an election that the system was on top of, is one way to look at it. But again, APC as a party says that in Edo State, it says that it is studying the situation, and they will come up with what their next line of action is. First of all, having said that, they disputed the result. The margin was What?
The margin was about 84,000.
About 84,000.
Yes, 336.
Yes.
You know, so that was just the difference between both parties. You know. Compared to even last 4 years ago, which was about 66,000 or thereabout. You know, so it means yeah, and it was 13 local government. But Obaseki won 13 local governments for 4 years ago.
Yeah, and he's winning 13 local governments again here, and the APC candidate won 5 local governments.
So it shows the level of apathy. Sorry, not apathy. The level at which people really wanted to come out, to exercise their franchise. And thank God that INEC is ticking the right buttons now, so people we want more people to always go out to vote. Election shouldn't be, even though the parties, the personnel, the people that are involved are always drumming that, drumming that sound of war. People should always say, no, we have to go there and vote. But because if you look at the number of people that collected PVCs and the numbers that we are accredited and the numbers that even cast their vote, it's like a night and day.
Yeah. But also in this election, I guess there's a lot that can be said for the initiative of His Royal Majesty, the Oba of Benin.
Yeah, exactly.
And the former, head of state,
Abu Salam,
Abu Bakr, and other Father Kuka, everybody coming together to say that, look, this is very much like a pressure cooker that we're in, and we've got to let out the valve somewhere. That probably, not probably, that no doubt helped as well in sort of giving everybody a sort of a calm down moment. The whole mommy calm down meme, a calm down moment. And there was a time when Obaseki was even saying before going into the contest, I think, that election no be war, or something like that. So by and large, a good attitude, subject, of course, to the observations of the parties, especially the the losing party, and we'll see how all of that goes. But but a jolly good show.
Yes,
of course, subject, of course, to APC and their complaints, which needs to be evaluated.
Yes, exactly. I think we are waiting for them to come up with their next move. Because it's their next move that will determine if we will move ahead or we'll go to court, or we'll start looking for how the judiciary will have to decide the case.
Exactly.
And, what already has been decided by the people.
Or just let sleeping dogs lie. It depends. Okay, so we'll take a break, and then when we come back, we'll look at the other big thing that's happening in some states, certainly Lagos. Schools resume today. The resumption of schools today after a long break because of the COVID-19 pandemic. So we look at that. Parents are reported to be a bit apprehensive. Before then, before now, people had said that even when they do open it up, I'm going to sit down, look a bit, and see how it goes. Stay with us, please. We'll be right back, and we'll look at this. Okay, welcome back. And let's look at the education sector. It's like the health sector as well, really, because it's really more of this health sector in the sense that students, pupils have had to be at home because of COVID-19. And now we're finally opening up, one would imagine, cautiously. Some parents in the immediate past, had said that they were apprehensive and might indeed tarry a while once the schools do open to see how it goes. But we got hold of an educationist, our friend Dr. Olukayode Eswola. He's a university lecturer. The university has not resumed yet. But good morning, Dr. Eswola.
Good morning, Yori and the team.
Thank you very much. Yori and Asukwo James here in studio. Now, the universities are not resuming yet. Is it? Well, they are not. I think we should just leave that for the moment, because I wanted to really point your attention to the real mass population, talking about primary and secondary school pupils in Lagos State, for example, reopening. Do you have any thoughts on that as to the event?
What you want to abandon should not be abandoned. When we say the universities are not opening yet, we have to be cautious in interpreting it. Governments at all levels in the federation are making plans to reopen all educational institutions, including universities. And so government own the universities, government can decide to open the university. But there is one thing to open universities, there's another yet important thing to ensure that the universities are running. So universities can be opened tomorrow. Even federal government may decide to open universities. But how will the university run when those who are supposed to operate within university, i.e. the lecturers, the professors, are on strike and in serious industrial action with the government? So opening is one thing, functionality is another thing. That being clarified, if you look at the secondary, the primary aspect that are opening,
That detail you
almost
just added was
everywhere in
indeed
the
what I
country.
did remember. The details you added were indeed what I did remember. But thank you very much for that. But going on to the
Mm. Yeah. So you look at the secondary schools and the primary schools that are being opened in every state of the federation. For me, it's a welcome development. And I'm saying that with all senses of responsibility. If you look at what has happened in Nigeria and other African countries since February, when the lockdown began, partially, fully, and all the stuff, two things you can bring out of this. Number one, it is clear that COVID-19 has come to stay with humanity, like malaria, like measles, like whooping cough, like tuberculosis. It will always ever be in our society. It is now in the dictionary of diseases around the world. So, for how long do we want to remain closed for something that you cannot avoid at any point in time? That's number one. Number two, if you look at the statistics globally, what you see is that African countries are not, empirically speaking, are not as affected as many parts of the world. Call it weather, call it climate, call it herd immunity, that's a matter of semantics. But what is clear on ground is that African countries, Nigeria as one of them, is not as affected as other parts of the world. Given these two factors, in summary, that one, we cannot run away from COVID-19 forever. It's a reality. We have to deal with it. And the second reason that the fatality rate, the infection rate, is not very high in Nigeria compared to what happens in the other world. The right thing to do at this point is to open up the schools so that we can avoid the danger of keeping our children at home. Having said that, we should not jeopardize the need to put measures in place to control, prevent, and manage the situation so that we will not open and then suddenly decide to close tomorrow. So, to summarize, opening up is the right thing to do at this point because we cannot avoid, disease that come to stay around the world. And of course, the fatality rate in Africa is not as high as what we have in other places.
So, Doctor, is it that I know that people are saying that maybe Africans are immune to it, but I'm looking at, is it that Africans and the government, they are not carrying out enough tests like every other country? Because if you look at even in Europe, they are thinking about another lockdown because of the numbers that is coming out. Is it we are not carrying out enough tests, and that is why people will think that if you go out there, people think that there's no COVID. So it's because we are not carrying out enough tests. So, and that is where most parents are afraid to even send their children back to school. Or what do you think?
Well, I understand the sentiment of the parents. I'm a parent myself. I've got kids in the university, in secondary school, and all this. But you see, there are two sides to addressing a particular issue, any issue at all. One is the knowledge side. The other type is the pragmatic, empirical side that you may not be able to explain via laboratory. I don't know the science behind it. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a virologist. But what is clear is that if the rate of infection and fatality in Nigeria will be the same that you have in Europe and America, by now, I can assure you, half of Nigerian people will have been dead. So there is something we do not know yet about COVID-19 and how it operates in Nigeria. Call it luck, call it herd immunity, call it prayer, because Nigeria is a praying nation. Our pastors are covering us with anointing of the Holy Spirit every day. Call it whatever you think. What is sure and certain, even testing or not, is that our communities are not affected the way other parts of the world are affected. I think we should take that advantage to open up our schools, because ours is a different system. We already have some of the highest level and numbers of students out of school, children out of school. We need education because we're a developing country. We cannot afford to gamble like other countries, especially when the situation is not so compressing for us to be able to do so. So my thought is that because we are lucky, and I'm choosing that word with care, we are lucky to have been in a situation in which the COVID scenario is not as pronounced here as it is in other parts of the world.
Okay.
One, and because on the other hand, it is something we cannot avoid. It has come to stay.
Okay.
When you are found in this kind of circumstances, devise a means of managing it. So the idea is that let the kids go back to school. Let us as a nation devise means of controlling, managing, and preventing it so that we won't get into trouble.
Okay, one moment, please, Kaode. Let me take this call in from London. Good morning, Mr. Maduka.
Good morning, Chief Yori.
Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling in.
And congratulations for our electoral success for once.
Indeed, indeed.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
That is, I'm happy with this professor you are speaking to. He is just hitting this thing at the point. You see, the thing we have to understand is God has so blessed Africa. For whatever reason, he has said it. Empirical, scientific, or whatever. The important fact is, if Africa, particularly Nigeria, was to be affected as Europe, testing or no testing, like he has said, you would have been picking dead bodies from the road. We don't have that situation. You go to villages, people are still dying the normal way people have been dying, almost at the same rate. That confirms that God has been so merciful to us, although we should not get careless.
Mm-hmm.
But that should not cause us to shut down our systems so long a time. That is that point. And then I go back to the Edo election. I want to congratulate Nigerians. I was monitoring this result on INEC portal yesterday 12, and they were downloading it. This is one of the arms INEC used in this election to disarm political parties. Because people could see this result. Even going to court now will be so difficult, but they will go to court.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Mr. Maduka. Yeah. We got to keep it on the present subject. Thank you very much. We appreciate your call and indeed your comments. The point that Dr. Isola made there about we shouldn't really be letting down our guard. Mm-hmm. First of all, I acknowledge that we are particularly fortunate in Africa mm-hmm. to not have been hit as hard as, for example, Italy was at the very, very beginning. We still have to keep so to speak, sleep with just one eye closed, in relation to mm-hmm. how we take care of this. And you had made the observation, Asukwa, that although you made it in relation to the election, that the social distancing was really noticed more by its absence than mm-hmm. by anything else. So it's going to be a burden. And by the way, we're trying to get hold of the spokesperson for SUBURB, which is the State Universal Basic Education Board, to get his comments on this as well. I beg your pardon?
Gaba.
Okay, we have Garba in Makurdi. Good morning, Garba. Okay, we lost him. The onus is going to be on governments to, really provide the enabling environment. Mm-hmm. That is good. They're going to have to reduce the numbers in classes, provide, the spacing, provide all the equipment, lest it appear that we just don't give a damn anymore.
I think what they did was they have a staggered, resumption, whereby
Yes.
some people will go in the morning, some people in the afternoon, and already I heard that preschool, that's pre-primary school, you shouldn't even go to school for now.
For now.
And
so we're taking all the precautions.
Yes.
We need to.
And then they're also talking about face mask for children. I'm very sure that one is even going to be expensive now because people are still going, they will start making money from it, So as it stands now, they are trying to take precautions step by step to ensure that nothing happens.
Okay, one moment. We got a call coming from Senator Ibrahim. Good morning, Senator Ibrahim.
Good morning.
Yeah.
How are you this morning?
Fine, thank you. And you?
Oh, well, fine.
Good.
I'm watching your program, and I saw the contributions by the lecturer from University of Lagos.
Yes. Dr. Kayode Esuola.
Sincerely. And I think we associate with his observation. Of course, I'm the chairman of the Senate Committee on Health, and we had interaction with the PTF last week specifically. The issues he raised are the things that we raise as legislators also. Yes, we don't know the scientific basis yet, but what we do know is that the rate of infections or the prevalence of COVID is not as high in Africa as in Nigeria, which Nigeria is part of, just like he said. And we're of the view also that we cannot afford to keep our schools completely closed. It has a lot of other implications. Besides, if we have open markets where people interact, parents go to the market, we have open airports, we have open virtually every offices. So why are we now restricting schools? The parents are interacting with their children when they go to all these other places. We have also opened international flights, and that means, in quote, the privileged children of the elite, and they will be flying out to go to their schools. So why are we now keeping those that we actually represent at home? So it is, I associate with his view, we have to open schools. Of course, we have to still maintain the protocol. But the general observation, which is the true thing, is that many Nigerians are not observing it. And the gentleman that is with you asked that is because we are not doing enough testing. I'm a medical doctor and a scientist. Even if we have the kind of situation, if the prevalence is so high or the incidence is high in this country, we don't need to do tests to be able to see people getting sick in our communities. And definitely they will have to. So our medical services will have reflected that we have much more.
Okay.
So if you are sick, so it means what it will mean is that even if we do have more than what we are testing, it means people that contact COVID-19 in Nigeria do have mild or no symptoms. And that's why they are able to get over it. Maybe just like it's like Qatar or so.
Senator,
so as such,
Senator,
I think we have to live with it. Yes,
Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, thank you very much for calling in. As you said, you're chair of the Senate Health Committee, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
I'm
in the Senate.
You are in the Senate.
I saw you put it as House Committee. I'm chairman of the Senate Committee on Health.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes. The Committee on Health. So I imagine that you guys would have really, with your distinguished colleagues, researched this matter deeply. Now, I read a report, you might have come across it as well, that there's an ongoing study. I'm sorry I can't give more details on it. An ongoing study in the U.S. Where the suspicion is that children, school children, can actually contact COVID-19, but they themselves not be affected. They could contact it. So, well, technically they are affected. The danger there is that they could transmit it. But as I said, it's still a study. I wonder if you've come across any such concern.
Well, yes. I'm aware of that statement also. It's not a concluded study. Initially, what we do have, which is from Nigeria evidence, was that many children there are less incidences of the disease in children. There was a time, I think it should be about 2 months ago, in one of our meetings with the PTF, where we were, with the Ministry of Education. As at that time, the total population of children affected in Nigeria, in terms of proportion or percentage, was less than 5%. Of course, it's not as if we are testing every child, but it means those that have contact with people that have, because most of in Nigeria, the testing is done, what I would call selective testing. Is because when you have somebody that has contacted, then you trace their contact. And
Well, Senator Oloriegbe, I'm afraid the line went bad on us, but thank you very much for calling in nonetheless. And he did say that he had also heard of that particular study where children are, well,
it's
sort of asymptomatic.
Yes, it's still a study.
It is a study that children might be, some children in this ongoing study might be asymptomatic, but are capable of transmitting it. But then both, Dr. Kayode Iswola and Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, both of them seem to be in concurrence that, look, we have to, we're not going to be able to lock ourselves hide away forever.
Exactly.
And that when you look at the studies that we have, the numbers are such, we just are fortunate. Now, to return to you, Kayode, if I may, you said that the universities could open tomorrow because since we're there, we're on education. They could open tomorrow, no problem with that. But you've got to have what you need to run a university. Now, you mentioned that lecturers are still on strike. How soon is that likely to, clear up?
I think it's only the federal government of Nigeria that can answer that question. ASU, the union that I belong to, is a very resilient organization when it comes to calling strikes. It's unfortunate that the society, the public, is not aware of the rigor, the structure, the patience, the meeting, counter meeting, and all these things that we often have to engage in before we go on strike. That we're on strike now is unfortunate because this is the time the nation needs us most to provide intellectual support, research support for this situation. But then, if it is necessary to teach the government a lesson once and for all, I think it's important we do it.
Okay.
One lesson we need to
understand that, Senator.
COVID-19 is that we need to build our institutions so that they can respond to emergencies when it comes. If we lock the universities, if we don't take care of lecturers, you cannot build institutions. So the call should go on the government to start immediately to address the problems in the university, especially ASU problems, so that we can have strong institutions that will come to our aid when crises occur.
Okay then. One moment, please. Thank you very much, Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe, for coming back on. I understand we got you back again, or you got us back.
Yes, thank you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So I think you
are trying to explain the study.
This whole matter about some kids, according to the study, which is no more than that at the moment, a study, appear to be asymptomatic, but could still be transmitting the disease.
Well, that's not proven yet that the transmission by children is higher than adults. It's not a problem. I don't have the evidence yet.
Okay.
And I don't have that study. But what I want to add is that why I would be in support of opening schools is for us to build our capacity of testing, identification, and management. Just like Dr. Luka said, we have to live with this disease. It's just like malaria. Do we close schools because malaria affects children? The answer is no. What we only do is that when a child gets sick or gets symptoms related, it look like malaria, we go and test and we treat and manage. That should be what we should try to do, and that's what we, as a majority of people, will try to advocate for and provide appropriate legislative intervention. In which case, we have to live our normal life while we live within the protocols of COVID-19 and do the necessary capacity building to live with it.
But should
not only to train the teachers outside providing all the protocols and parents. When you identify your child having symptoms related to this, the test should be available to be done much more than what we have now, which is what we are trying to build.
All right, then. Well, I want to thank you very much, Senator, for calling back in and concluding.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Senator Ibrahim Oloriegbe there. And and also to thank you very much, Dr. Lukade Esuola, you lecturer at the University of Lagos. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. And indeed, sort of a little bonus in the sense that we got your thoughts also on ASU and its relations with government and what it should be. We'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, Dr. Esuola. Okay, so there you go. We've got time for very little else, but you know, we have to open up. We have to go.
Yes,
And
yes.
still be careful, but we've got to open up.
So, that is where we also want the government to start doing their monitoring to see that schools, you know, keep to the protocol. The basins are there with water to wash hands, sanitizers, face masks, all those things, and social distancing are kept, you know.
Okay,
so that everybody stays safe.
Indeed, we've got to wrap it up. So it's what we always say at the end of our program. Do all you can, please, to stay safe, because COVID-19 hasn't exactly left here. We'll be back tomorrow, God willing, Asuko and I, or if not Asuko, maybe Cyril will come. See you then. Bye-bye for now.